What's up, y'all? Today I'm going to walk you through how to remove and replace your chain, rear sprocket, and front sprocket on the CFMOTO 450ss. Rear sprocket removal installation. You're going to need a stand to lift the rear wheel off the ground. Once the bike's lifted, loosen the chain adjuster bolts. Those are little bolts that control the tension on the swing arm. Now grab your sockets, 19mm on the left side and a 21mm on the right, and loosen the rear axle. You don't need to take it all the way out just yet, just loosen it up. Once that's done, push the wheel forward to get some slack in the chain. If the chain still won't come off, pull the rear axle completely out and carefully roll the tire forward while it's on the ground, just enough to slip the chain off the sprocket. Now with the wheel off, you can either leave the sprocket on the wheel or remove it entirely, up to you. Now loosen the sprocket bolts. Be careful. Do them by hand first to break them loose so you don't strip anything. My sprocket uses different bolts than the OEM, but the process is still the same. Once all the bolts are out, remove the old sprocket, slap a new one on, and reinstall the bolts finger tight first. Then grab your torque wrench and torque them down in a star pattern. I torqued mine down to 35Nm, but the official spec is in the manual if you want to double check it. Now that's it for the rear sprocket. Let's go into the front. Front sprocket removal and installation. Start by removing the shift linkage. That's held on by a 10mm bolt. Just back that out and slide this linkage off the shaft and move it out the way. Now you'll see the front sprocket cover. It's held in by 3 bolts, 2 at the top and 1 at the bottom. Remove those and pull the cover off. Now the sprocket's exposed. You'll notice there's a collar pinched over the front sprocket nut. You'll need to unpinch that collar first. Once that's clear, go ahead and loosen the sprocket nut. It might take a little force, but once it's off, pull the old sprocket out and put the new one on. Now you'll notice that the sprocket will say outside, or it'll just have a logo on it. That's usually the side that is pointed towards you. Now reinstall it and put the collar back on and finger tight the nut. Then you're going to want to grab your torque wrench again and torque the front sprocket nut. I did fit 50Nm, but again, check the manual for the exact spec. And then you'll want to pinch that collar back down. And that's it for the front. Now onto the chain. Chain removal and installation. Now if you're running a clip style master link, you can just remove the clip and then take the chain off. But if you're not, then you'll need to break the old chain. You can either cut it or use a chain breaker tool. Either works. Now with the old chain off, let's get the rear wheel back on before we mount the new chain. Now when reinstalling the rear wheel, don't forget the spacers on each side. They're easy to miss, but are super important. Here's a quick little method that I use for getting the rear wheel back on. I use a ratchet strap, loop through the rear wheel and over the bike, and then I just slowly ratchet it up. That lets me line everything up while keeping my hands free to position the spacers in case they fall out. Once everything's aligned, slide the axle back through, and then just don't forget to clean or re-lube any parts like the axle or spacers before putting them back in. With the axle in, just finger tighten down just enough that you can still slide the wheel forward and backwards, because now it's time to size the chain. Sizing and installing the chain. If you're not changing the sprocket sizes, it's a simple 1-to-1 swap with the same amount of links. And you can count the links, or if it states in your manual how long the chain is supposed to be, then, you can do that. But in my case, I'm going from a 52 down to a 44 to a 41, and my chain is a 21 link chain, so I'll need to cut it down. I slide the rear wheel all the way forward, lay the chain on both sprockets, and size it so there's just enough slack to move it back, but not max it out completely. Then I cut the chain using the breaker tool and install the master link. Now I'm using a clip style master, but it's always recommended to rivet it if you can, just safer and more secure. Now once the chain's on, you'll need to adjust the slack. I use a chain slack tool from Amazon, so I don't have to guess, and I'll have that link down in the description. But you can also do the ruler method. Just pull the chain up or down the middle and check for proper play, and adjust your tension bolts on both sides evenly. And again, the proper measurement for that is in the manual. And once the slack is right, tighten those chain tensioner bolts and then torque down the rear axle. That spec is 105 to 110Nm. I torqued mine down to about 108 or 107. Now last step, reinstall the front sprocket cover and reconnect the shift linkage, and that's it. Chain, rear sprocket, and front sprocket all replaced on the CFMOTO 450ss. If you got any questions or want to see anything else, just let me know. Ride safe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.